The misery of the Resident Evil movies continues with the fifth entry in the series, Retribution. I know I usually start these with something snarky, but I'm just beat down. Let's just take some solace in the fact that we're nearing the end, and let's find out what Alice gets up to this time. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me once again is Tim.
Please feel free to refer to me as Project Tim.
Yes, Project Tim. You're actually the 18th version of Tim we've had on the show. No one's noticed though. Yeah, that's why every so often your hair gets shorter like this. It's because
Right.
I've switched to a new clone and killed the previous one.
Right out of the batch.
Yes, welcome everyone. This is a horror movie podcast, and today we are returning to, unfortunately, the Resident Evil movie franchise, and it's the fifth movie today, which is Resident Evil Retribution, which I did have to check a couple times just to make sure I was watching the correct film, but this is the one that came out in 2012. And I'm assuming at this point, if you're joining us for this, you've probably at least dabbled in some of the previous Resident Evil reviews, but I'll just give you the bullet points. We're both big fans of the games. We both hate these movies, mostly directed or at least written by Paul W.S. Anderson, and it's been a cavalcade of absolute shit up until this point, going into movie number 5. So here we are. We'll do a little spoiler-free section, as we always do. Maybe not as much on this one, because I'm not really sure how much new stuff spoiler-free-wise we'll have to say. But we'll give you warning before we get to the spoilers. If you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button. Helps out a bunch if you do. And of course, you can support everything over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonus stuff. But I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode.
I like that, just like the movie itself, you felt the need to give like a recap of everything.
Whoa. Hey. The first line of dialogue in this movie, Tim, do you remember what it is? Do you remember the very first line spoken in this movie is?
Is it "My name is Alice"?
My name is Alice, and I work for the Umbrella Corporation. She says it again, her catchphrase.
Oh boy.
Oh dear. I guess the obvious question to start with, Tim, is this one you'd seen before? Did you stumble across this in the past, or is this the first time viewing? Are you even sure one way or the other? I guess that's the other way I could phrase that.
Yeah. I don't think so, because I know I've seen like a smattering of these movies, but yeah, like at some point, if they were streaming, I might have watched like a few of them, and when I say watch, maybe I'll be like, all right, let me give these an honest effort, and then 15 minutes in, I'm like getting up and doing the dishes or whatever. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I have not seen this one, because very little about it seemed familiar. I want to say there was a random one like I went to see with my brother, like probably we were just hanging out and like, let's go to the movies, and this is what was playing. But I want to say that it was maybe the next one, the final one. But maybe I'll see once I watch if it seems a bit more familiar. But I'm pretty positive I have not seen this one.
Okay. I feel like you could at least remember a bunch of the characters from the games that they shove in here just kind of randomly out of nowhere.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, but even if you'd forgotten everything else, I feel like that would at least stick in your mind a little bit once they pop back up.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. I had seen this. I unfortunately watched whatever ones I hadn't seen. I saw on stream a few years ago. That said, though, other than the fact that some characters showed up in this one, if you'd asked me to try and recount the plot of this one, I would have struggled deeply. It's fair to say. But we'll get into everything. I guess I don't even know if there's any point given the premise. It starts with the last one left off, kind of, and I really do mean kind of. It gives you a quick sort of like explanation as to how that wrapped up, and then she just wakes up in a new location. So it's like, oh, we were just like cleaning up that previous ending as quickly as possible, kinda, before we move on to whatever we actually want to do this time, which has been a recurring theme in this movie series up until this point. But let's just get over. Tim, how do you feel about Resident Evil Retribution?
Oh, it sucks shit. It's Yeah, I mean, this is god awful. I feel like when I watch these movies, like part of me is kind of like, all right, like, yeah, these are awful, but I don't know. Is it ever going to be like so bad it's good? Like something that will be fun to talk about and go, hey, what about this crazy part? And they're not. They really are just like kind of torturous. And I don't know if it's just because, we're such big fans of the game and this is just.
I don't think so. I really Paul W.S. Anderson is an absolute goddamn hack. He can't even make a so bad it's good movie. He just makes so bad it's painful to sit through a movie.
Right. It's very fair. Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I feel like we're just going to be retreading a lot of ground that we did in the other reviews. Like it's the same problems here since the first movie.
Once we get into spoilers, I don't think that'll be too much of a problem. I'm going to be very vigilant to try and make sure we don't just retread the same ground. There's one question, Tim, that you've asked me at least in 3 of these reviews, and if you ask me it again, I swear I'm going to find you and kick you in the dick. Like, I promise you. Right, I'm promising you, because I know you've forgotten it, because you always forget that you've asked it. So I'm putting it out there right now.
Okay, well, now I'm curious what this question is. Is it do you find Alice hot? Is that the question I always ask?
I don't think you've ever asked that one. No, that one's never came up somehow.
Well, I mean, we always talk about, but we got to start rating babes on this show.
No, don't always talk about. What are you talking about? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, this is just god awful. That little like opening bit in the beginning when it's kind of like the last scene from the last movie. I don't know if they shot anything additional, but there was like some of the worst like green screen footage in there. And I mean, in general, this has.
It was all new, Tim. Do you want to know how we know?
How?
Well, because at the end of the last movie, Chris and Claire were in those scenes, and
that's true.
Conveniently, somehow we just don't see them at all in any of this at the start of this one. It's very, very strange. They barely get a mention. It's just all of a sudden. I was actually laughing because the guy that was interested in the last movie, Luther, does show up in this one. I didn't remember if he did or not, but he does show up and he plays a, quote unquote prominent role. But it made me laugh because I realized. Yeah, at most she keeps like a side character for like one extra movie. Like, you introduce Claire in the third one, she'll come back in the fourth, but she won't make it to the fifth. You introduce Luther in 4, he makes it to the fifth, but I don't think he's going to be in the sixth one, and so on. There's a lot of like, you might stick around for one extra movie. Same with Carlos. He was in 2, then in 3. Not counting some shenanigans that goes on later, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first movie had. I mean, I don't know if they had like really any characters from the game.
No, none.
In the first one,
0.
Yeah, so every movie after that, it feels like they're trying to make up for it, but the way they always do it is by, introducing these characters with like almost no context or background, and they always just look like cosplayers. Like, they never feel like actual characters. It looks like someone. I mean, they're like actors I recognize and stuff. But it does feel like someone that they would have just gotten off of like a Comic-Con floor in there, like, oh, here's, cool Barry costume. Can you come be in this movie real quick? But yeah, you're right. Like, they always are just playing second fiddle to Alice. I think you've said this before, but yeah, they're always just there to kind of, booster her and like, basically just say like, isn't Alice cool? Where's Alice? Blah, blah, blah. Like, and then it's like, obviously we know who they are because, we play the games and stuff, but I assume there's some people that don't play the games or have little knowledge of it. And like, it must just be confusing to be like, oh, why are we following these people? Why are they like a big deal,
Kind of, I don't know. It's almost like this weird, it almost doesn't matter though, because the characters in like these movies are so thin that the fact that these new characters show up like and don't get any explanation actually kind of matches all the original characters anyway. Like like it weirdly, they're writing so bad that it almost there's no difference between like say Luther, who actually was introduced originally in the last movie, versus Barry Burton and Leon are here all of a sudden, and they're vaguely kind of dressed like the versions of them from the games, but why are they important? There's nothing in the movie to tell you that. It's just there for cheap pops. It's almost like, hey, that'll jingle some keys in front of the Resident Evil fans and they'll clap. And then otherwise, we're just doing our Alice Super Show again.
And one last thing I will say too, and hopefully I can get a better understanding when we go through the plot, but I don't know. I kind of was like legitimately confused by this movie, and I don't know if it's because it is confusing or if I just care so little that it's like, hard for me to follow the plot. I have an overarching sense of like what's going on and stuff, but I don't know. There's so much stuff like seemed pointless to me, and I don't know.
Pointless? In a Paul W.S. Anderson movie, you thought there was pointless scenes? Oh, Tim. Bold.
Yeah, but it's a little hard to talk about before we go into spoilers, but I feel like I'll have like a lot of questions. I feel like the answer is almost always going to be like, oh, well, because it's a shit movie, like, but yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? It sucks.
Yeah.
You're a bad person if you like it. Sorry.
Well, unironically, if you like it, because if you think it's fun in a bad movie way, like, I don't get it, but I can at least appreciate, because I like other bad movies, so sure, go for it. Yeah, it's guilty of a lot of the same things. It's got, like, the action scenes fall into two camps, either ridiculously over the top with slow motion and like zero tension because it's just about making one character, in this case Alice, look like a superhero, or two, characters just stand still and fire guns. That's the two types of action scenes you pretty much get throughout this franchise, and that's, they're both all over this one repeatedly. I mean, for some reason, it has like so much reverence for like the earlier movies, and some, even though it'll like conveniently forget a lot of characters who they didn't get the actors back for, it has so much reverence for, like, say, the Red Queen in Resident Evil 1, where it's like, remember our original AI villain? Well, that's not so cool. We've brought that back, kinda.
Yeah, they act like that has like the same gravitas of like, Avengers Endgame or something, when like a character pops up or like says a line or something from like a bunch of movies ago that like it's just I don't know, like, again, there are probably people that care about that movie or whatever, but while I'm watching it, I'm just like, I don't care, get over this.
But it's not like, yeah, I mean, the comparison I would make is if it's like, oh, you're doing like a Dark Knight Return story and he turns the bat signal on again for the first time. Like, that's what they feel like the Red Queen saying something's like. It's like, oh, the Red Queen's back. Everyone get excited. But like, yeah, I mean, even if you kind of like the first Resident Evil movie, it's not Alien. It's not like a classic where like some things in it have come to mean a lot to the fan base in this big way. It really feels like Paul W.S. Anderson is kind of just masturbating here. He's just stroking himself over his own stuff. Look at how great the Red Queen is. Look at how, every time we reference anything from that first movie, I'm so proud of myself. Look at how great my wife Alice is. She's such a badass. Like, that's kind of what these movies are.
And that he refers to her as Alice, like, even when they're not shooting.
Oh yes. Not in public, because I don't want other people to know, but yeah, as soon as the doors close, it's like, all right, Alice. Like,
is that Alice, sweet Alice?
No, see, he's not seen good cinema, Tim. He's not watched Alice, Sweet Alice. He doesn't know that movie. He only knows Alice because he knows how to make a hackneyed reference to Alice in Wonderland. That's the only context for Alice he has.
Sure.
Right?
Fair.
That's all he's got. He's basically just a real-life Mad Hatter who happens to be directing Resident Evil movies. So, yeah, as far, obviously, there's lots of, if anything, this one has arguably even more effects and more, like, CG backgrounds than any other one, because there's a lot of big stuff that it tries to do. Some of it looks laughably pretty bad. Some of it's just okay,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're not kidding. There were legitimately parts that I was like, oh, like, I thought these movies were, like, kind of popular. Like, just the fact that they're, keep making them means that there must be some audience. I was like, you can't shell out a few more bucks, like, for the, Las Plagas and stuff.
That's the key thing, though, is that they're popular enough relative to their budget. I think if they actually got a decent budget for any of these, all of a sudden they wouldn't have been getting more sequels at any point. I think they were little money earners for the price they were paying for them, and that was it.
That's fair. I will say something. There's a part early on in the beginning where I wouldn't say it was good or that I was liking it by any stretch, but they're doing something that I thought, oh, okay, this is a little different. I'm still not liking this, but I'm more intrigued by this than I have been in stuff in the other movies. And then very quickly I was like, oh, okay, never mind. We're not doing something different like I thought. But I'm being kind of vague till we get to spoilers.
Sure. I mean, I think what you're talking about was kind of in the trailers because they wanted the trailer to be like confusing, like what the hell's going on in this next Resident Evil movie. But yeah, I mean, we'll get into everything, but we'll probably just go into spoilers right about now. To be honest, I don't know how much more we've got to say really, outside of points we've already made 5 times at this point. So. Spoilers for Resident Evil Retribution, which also I noted was 2012, which is 10 years after the first movie. So this was like their 10th anniversary movie as well for the franchise.
Well, everyone knows when it comes to anniversaries, the 10th year is the Retribution year, so that checks out.
Well, but I was just wondering if that's why they came up with some weird plot that involved bringing back dead characters from Resident Evil 1, you know?
That would make sense. Yeah. And then
we also have to reference the laser hallway again because that's been like you're again Paul W.S. Anderson just like feeling himself and being like, oh, aren't I so smart? I'm such a good director. Look at all these great ideas I had back in 2002. Yeah. So the movie pissed me off like basically right away, right? Because the movie starts and the opening titles play. As we basically see the aftermath of the previous movie, but it plays out backwards, right? So it starts off with Alice in the water, and in slow motion, she's kind of rising up, and then she eventually goes back up onto the boat from the end of the last movie, and we see Jill sort of like go back up on her rappel line and all that, and all this stuff happens in reverse as the opening titles are playing. That takes like 3 minutes or whatever it is. And then we just cut to Alice surrounded by black, and she's like, my name is Alice, I work for Umbrella, and gives us a recap of the previous movies, notably only bringing up characters that they've got coming back for this one, right? Just conveniently forgetting other ones that she's left behind. And basically says all this stuff, and then at the end just has a really generic line about, well, we thought it was over, but it wasn't. The biggest nightmare was yet to come. Yeah, you keep adding on more story, we get it. And then, instead of just going to the start of the movie, it decides to play through the thing it just played back in reverse in forward time. At least it's not in slow motion this time, so it's a bit quicker. But I could not believe, like, nothing new is given to us when it's played in forwards. It's not like we get like a new bit of context. It just ends the way it started the first time, and then she wakes up in a new location and the movie starts properly. So this is when I was pissed off. Like, because she doesn't, we don't cut to her waking up in the new position until about 7 minutes in, and so much of that 7 minutes is just repetitive fluff, right?
Yeah.
Not happy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. It's very quickly starts off on a sour note. Yeah, I wasn't happy about this at all.
Yeah. Not to mention her whole tactic when the choppers were coming in on the boat was to, you guess it, stand still and fire her 2 shotguns just in place. Maybe try and take cover, perhaps, or anything else that might help you win. No, just a thought.
And then, and I guess the big thing to mention here too is, I mean, there's lots of like grunt soldiers and stuff that are fighting, but the big thing is we see Jill there, and she's like the blonde whatever mind controlled Jill from like Resident Evil 5,
which did show us at the end of the last one in the mid-credit scene, which I think you didn't see because you just turned it off and ran away as quickly as possible. But they did tease this, they did set this up. So yeah, she wakes up in a house. She's got different hair. She's in the suburbs, and they keep teasing her husband. And I'd seen this, but it's been such a long time, and I'd forgotten almost everything. I was like, oh, I bet it's the guy from the first movie. The one she was like, pretending to be married with. And then no, it's Carlos.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Carlos is the husband in this house, and they've got a daughter who's deaf. And like, okay, we're doing something weird here, I guess. And zombies eventually attack, and it's the whole thing is that she's trying to protect her daughter. Oh, there you go.
Well, you say eventually, like, it takes some time. I feel like it's very quickly, like, zombies just rushing out of nowhere, which did actually kind of make me laugh. Like, it was very sudden. I thought that was kind of funny. So there's a couple of things here. One, not that I really cared much for this movie either, but this did feel a little bit like a ripoff of Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
When they go outside, like, particularly, I sort of thought that a little bit.
Yeah, cause, like, just like the idea of, like, okay, you're waking up, it's a very normal suburban day, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, zombies, and then chaos, and then like, you go outside, and then, like, this big wide shot of, like, all the chaos and stuff going on. So not that I really care if a movie I don't like is ripping off another movie I don't like, but that was one thing that I kind of noticed.
For me, I think it was particularly the fact that a car crashes almost instantly in that wide shot, because I'm pretty sure that happened in that Snyder Dawn of the Dead remake as well.
Yeah. And then what I will say is, this is what I was kind of alluding to, where, again, I wouldn't say I'm enjoying this or whatever, but when I was watching this, I was like, okay, I'm at least a little more interested in what's going on here, instead of, like, the weird Mad Max, like, apocalyptic Earth we've gotten in the last couple of movies, where it's just like, feels like like Mad Max characters wandering through, like, these, like, ashen deserts and stuff. So I was like, you know what, I guess I probably hadn't seen this movie, so I didn't really know where it was going, but I was like, if we're getting something that's maybe a bit more scaled back, and it's like, just kind of mostly dealing with zombies invading a city, like, again, not that it would be good, but I'd probably be a bit more interested in this versus, like, the last couple of movies. But yeah, you quickly realize that's not the case, though.
Yeah, there's a bit of a chase. There's a bit of her trying to protect her daughter from the zombies, and ultimately this Alice gets killed. And the real Alice then wakes up in a different location, like an all-white kind of laboratory-looking umbrella room of some kind. And it's like, and eventually we sort of, like, stumble into this area and sort of realize what it was. But it's basically just a big umbrella test. This is a big underground testing facility in Russia that has a full Truman Show style suburbs kind of area underground, as well as other biomes. They have one of the weirdest things about this movie, actually, is that when Alice goes into the Tokyo, like, biome, it's basically explaining the opening credits of the last movie. Because I don't know if you remember this, Tim, but
I thought that was familiar.
Yeah, the last movie started, the opening titles was, like, slow motion in the rain, and it was, like, in Japan, and it was, like, this one woman slowly turned into a zombie before she started biting people. And that's the zombie we see later that attacks Alice when she's out there. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like, were you actually trying to set this up when you filmed that, or were you just sort of showing, this is how the outbreak happened in Japan? It feels very retcon to me. But it was just like a weird detail. I'm like, okay, I guess you felt the need to tie that, very disconnected opening title sequence into the continuity, but okay, whatever.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is, like, some of the stuff that confused me, because, like, I really don't understand what the point of all this is. Like, is it that because they're trying to, I mean, they obviously have a bunch of clones of Alice, but, like, are they trying to find one that's, like, as, like, strong and superhuman as her? Or
I have zero idea why there's clones of Alice in these biomes. They never explain that. They explain why the biomes exist, though. And this comes a bit later. Renee is there and they're talking to Wesker and stuff. But it's basically the Umbrella wanted to sell the bio weapon, the T-virus that would cause an infection to different countries. So they showed Russia being spread in New York, and they have a Moscow area so they could show America, hey, this is what would happen if it spread in Moscow. So it was basically like an advert for the rivals of different countries, so they'd all buy the same thing, and then, presumably they might have all used it, and that's why the entire world's been shoved into chaos. Maybe.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what I have to say about that.
Yeah, go on.
That's stupid.
It's a bit much. It's a bit over the top. I don't think people
Like,
buying a virus need to see it happen in oh, here's it. It's in front of the Kremlin. See, you can see how well it's doing because the Kremlin's behind them.
Like, I understand the point of it is like this way you can have like lots of different locations in the movie and stuff. So there's variation and whatever, like that makes sense to me, but
at the very least it's more visually interesting than just the prison that we're in for like most of the last movie.
Right, yeah. But yeah, it is funny though, because if you did need to sell it to people, you could probably just have like one room with like one zombie in it and just be like, hey, look at this, like pretty crazy, right?
What's so funny to me about it is that it's actually the most video gamey thing this like movie series has ever had, is this idea of these different biomes with different locations. Except the one ironic detail being it's nothing like any Resident Evil video game, but it's very video gamey in general.
Yeah.
Like, here's the Moscow level, here's the New York level, here's your suburbs level, and whatever other areas we run into at various points.
Yeah. So what it kind of feels like to me, what they did with the movie is they basically wrote the plot and then they have like or they wrote the script and then they have all these like different characters that are not Alice that are going to do stuff, and then like once they're done they just like looked at like a list of Resident Evil characters and they'll be like, okay, so I guess the character that's going to help her will be Ada Wong, and then let's see, what other characters can we throw in here, because like it doesn't really feel like any character is necessarily like, oh yeah, that's makes sense because this character would do this in the game or blah blah blah. Like it just feels like they're just thrown in there to have, and this has been happening in like all the movies after the first one.
Honestly, Tim, in this one it just kind of feels like who have we not used yet? Right,
exactly.
Them, and them. All right, there we go. And like, I guess the closest they've ever come to actually adapting like who the characters are, and this is not a compliment because it's not enough and it's not much, but Leon actually does seem to be obsessed with Ada. Where's Ada? Have you seen Ada? And then when he makes a move on her at the end, she's like happy to see him, but she takes his hand off her thigh and rejects him. And I'm like, okay, I guess you kind of got the Leon Ada like attraction, right? But it's so weird though, because it implies this history that's not happened in any of these movies.
Yeah. that final scene did make me laugh because I was like, again, as someone that knows the games and stuff, I understand this relationship or whatever, but again, just like a general public that hasn't played the games or maybe is not like obsessive with them or whatever, like is this gonna have any type of like resonance for them? Like are they gonna understand this? And and it's not like everything has to be cut and dry for someone that's not familiar with the franchise. Like you can have like little Easter eggs and stuff, but it's just like with this, it's like, well, it doesn't feel like they give you anything to understand these characters. So like, unless you played the game, you have nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Ada looks pretty much like a Resident Evil 4 version visually, so fair play on that. She's probably the one that feels the most like the real character, and only in the sense that she doesn't do anything that feels off. Whereas I think Barry is wildly miscast. He doesn't feel like Barry. And Leon feels like a cosplay, like you said, and he's so like broody and like moody that it's very not Leon, especially if you're going for Resident Evil 4 kind of Leon with the quips and the wisecracking and whatever.
Yeah. Like I guess Ada kind of makes sense because she's kind of like kind of playing like a spy or like she's like a betraying Umbrella or whatever. So I was like, I guess it kind of fits, like her from like Resident Evil 2. But the other characters is really again just doesn't feel like there's any reason for them to be there or that they have any, like they don't really have any connections to each other. It's like it's not like, oh, Leon and Barry, that famous pair from the games. Yeah,
they've never met each other in the games, but they just show up together in the same team on this, along with, hold on, let me check their names, along with Tony and Sergey, who the red shirts who die very quickly, who are not from the games, they're just there. So they show Yeah, because they also do a bit with Barry, where before his last stand, he pulls out a Magnum, and obviously in the Resident Evil 1 remake, he has his Colt Python, that's his big fancy Magnum, and it's like and then they kind of treat it like a little moment, and it's like the entire scene's stupid, which we'll get to, but like they kind of try and treat that as the one Barry thing that he actually has, is he has his Magnum, and that's it. He has the red vest, and he has the Magnum, and is like, one, he's not old enough, there's no shade of the personality, there's none of that there. He is nothing.
I'm just like picturing, like, if the series kept going, if they would just have to like get like more and more characters they haven't used, so like eventually you have like, like, oh, Brad Vickers showing up, or like who's the helicopter pilot in Resident Evil 4 that like just comes out of nowhere? Yeah.
We've never even seen Mike. We just know he's called Mike. We hear his voice, and that's it. That's all we get. Yeah. Well, and then the other thing about like the whole like the movie acting like there's history for all these characters, despite the fact that they've never been in the movies, is when Alice first runs into Ada, she's like, "I know exactly who you are. You're Ada Wong. You're a spy." And I'm like, "Why did you know that?" Why?
And honestly, I don't think I ever. I mean, again, this is part of me, like, not, like in the movies and stuff, but I feel like I never really knew exactly who was on whose side, and you know what I mean? Because like, we're getting like the characters coming back from the first movie, and at first it's like, okay, they're or at least like
kinda,
who's Michelle Rodriguez's character?
Rain. Yeah, she's Rain.
Rain. How could I forget that?
Yeah, well, actually, the first time we see her is actually during that bit in the suburbs, before that Alice clone dies, is that she's like driving a car, and she's like another mum on the street, and she's like, "Get in the car," and she ends up, getting thrown from the car at one point or whatever. So we actually see her already by that point, early on. And
then Is it the same one that's like throughout the rest of the movie, or was that a clone too?
No. There's two Michelle Rodriguez in this movie.
Okay.
There's Suburbs mum Michelle Rodriguez, who kind of stays as an ally, and then there's Soldier Michelle Rodriguez, who's with Colin Salmon, who was also in Resident Evil 1, and they're like the SWAT team coming to hunt for Alice.
And then she basically becomes like the big bad, which is like weird to me. It's like, kinda. Okay, like I did, like, because I mean, by the end, they're the two that are like squaring off against each other, and I was like, I don't know, did anyone really care like about bringing her character back or making it like such a big deal?
I think my concern is the fact that she's just kind of like a human with like invincibility at the end. There's nothing like she didn't turn into a Resident Evil monster or anything, which is what I thought was going to happen. Right. But I mean that's we'll get to that. So Alice wakes up, and they've put her back in those two white sheets of paper that she was in at the end of the first movie, right? So she wakes up with the two white sheets of paper, and evil Jill shows up in the window and starts like torturing her with sounds to try and make her admit who she's working for, even though like we're in a post-apocalypse, there's no one to work for anymore other than Umbrella. But we'll get to that. So So eventually, though, that door just opens. Like, stuff shuts down and a door opens, and it turns out when she goes wandering and she puts on her dominatrix outfit, she stumbles into a control room and whatnot. I think she actually goes through like the New York area, or no, she goes through the Japan area, and she has like a scene where she runs from zombies and does like just an over-the-top fight scene in the hallway where she's just doing kicks and stuff to a bunch of zombies. But it's just a bunch of zombies. It's nothing special or important. And it's just like, hey, let's have Alice show off for like 5 minutes before we get the plot moving.
Can I say something I was also confused by? So does she still like have her superhuman abilities or not?
You know what? That's an excellent question, Tim, because I just assumed she did until at the very end, Wesker does something that implies that she didn't, and now she does again.
Right. Yeah, because like throughout the like all of the movie, she's still doing all these like badass like kick flips and somersaults and like just surviving anything and like defeating these giant creatures. So I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm assuming she still is like that superhuman creature or whatever, but like at the end it's like, oh no, I'm re-injecting you with the T virus to get those powers back. And I was like, okay, I mean, it seemed like she kind of had powers before. Like,
well, but she did have telekinesis before. I didn't see her using that all movie. So
true.
So where did that little nugget go?
I guess without her powers, she just has to settle for being like the world's best fighter, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that the team that's coming in to like rescue her are coming because we need Alice up top, because the world's at stake. Human race is fighting its last stand, and Alice is the most important person in the world. We have to save Alice. So after she has her fight, she's into like a control room, and all the people who were in the control room are already dead, and that's when Ada shows up. And they have a bit of a standoff, and it turns out that Ada's here. She is working for Wesker, but she says that things have changed up top, and Wesker is like fighting the war against all the creatures. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then Wesker comes on the screen, and yeah, they present it as he's still kind of an evil slime bag, but he's actually fighting for humanity to survive. And he says that Alice is important to like winning, and that's why everyone's coming for her. And it's like, okay, but I'm like, that's flip-flopping of like, you're trying to say that Wesker's like an uneasy ally now all of a sudden, when he's barely been this character the last couple of movies. I don't know, it just, all of it felt really weird to me.
That's again, like I was saying before, like I never really quite understood like who we're supposed to be rooting for. It's like, okay, so wait, is our Umbrella the good guys, or you're not working for Umbrella anymore, you're fighting against Umbrella, but then if you're no longer part of Umbrella, then what the hell is Umbrella?
There's actually a big thing to explain. Well, not explain, but like I'd like to add to that. The one thing I will say though, the whole like, so is everyone just working with Wesker? I think Leon actually says at one point in a quick exchange, is because I think Alice is like, oh, so you work for Wesker? It's like, yeah, I don't like it, but like, you know, things have changed up top, implying that, oh yeah, we've all had to just start a band together because the world's at stake. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. It's weird to have all these characters working under Wesker when, you know, admittedly, they never did this in the movies, but the whole thing at the start of the games is he was pretending to be like a good guy with everyone else and turned out to be the villain by the end of the first game. That was kind of his shtick. So the fact that everyone's now knowing what he is but still working for him is really weird to me. So the big thing though, which maybe you have forgotten, maybe you didn't catch it. So the Red Queen is in this facility.
This I know, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And the Red Queen like eventually cuts off Wesker and says her catchphrase, "You're all going to die down here tonight," or whatever. And it's like, okay.
I really needed that.
Yeah, Alice is like, wink, wink. I've heard that before. Wink.
Yeah.
So they do that. Over the course of the movie, they say that Umbrella is no more, and the Red Queen is actually the one controlling Umbrella. And so it's like, wait, so she's an AI gone rogue that's now in charge of everything. And not only that, at the end of the movie, when like Wesker's like sort of saying, okay, we're going to take our last stand, he literally says the Red Queen is behind all this. That they're literally in a war with an artificial intelligence. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What is this? What are we doing here? None of this is Resident Evil. This is... hey, maybe one day Resident Evil will do a game where you're fighting an AI, and that could be fun, maybe, but like that's not been, you know, what it is.
Yeah, and especially it's like a lot of questions of like, okay, so is it like how many systems I guess like is it like empowering or logged into? Because yeah, like there's not it's not like any of the things they fight are like robots. Like, you know, I don't know how like an AI would be able to control like zombies and lickers and stuff. Like they can unleash the virus, but there's not really much else they can do after that.
I think it's just about, you know, unleashing it in the right places, and like, you know, it's like, oh, people are in this corridor, open the door to the liquor, like, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, make the liquors bigger.
Yeah, the liquors are bigger and chunkier in this movie for whatever reason.
And then and also, you know, skipping ahead, but you know, since we're kind of talking about that, like, yeah, that final scene, like you said, they're like, okay, yeah, the Red Queen is invading or whatever, and they show this, you know, shot of like, you know, first they're in this desolated White House, and then they're showing all the things attacking, but it's like, it's not even first of all, like you're saying like AI, so I'm thinking like robots, more sci-fi kind of thing, but it's not sci-fi and it's not like horror. It's like dragons, and it feels like a fantasy thing, which again,
that's
this is not Resident Evil.
Yeah, that stuck out to me. There's a surprising number of dragon-looking things flying around in that final shot, where they're all like storming the exterior wall around the White House.
Yeah. Like it looks more like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or something than Resident Evil.
You see a few lickers climbing the wall, but there's also a lot of flying dragony looking things, and I don't have an explanation. The whole Red Queen's like at war with what's left of the human race is so out of nowhere in this movie. Wasn't hinted at all in the last like 3 movies. So I mean, whatever.
And I'm sure they probably explained this somewhere, and I forgot too. But also, didn't Wesker die in one of the last movies? I thought Alice killed him, or maybe I'm confusing it with one of the games or something.
I feel like Chris and Claire like unloaded their guns into his face at the end of the last one. I could be wrong, but I think they did.
Yeah. But I mean, there's so many clones and stuff in this. I guess I would just assume it's like some type of clone situation. But still, just another thing. I was like, if I cared more about this, I would be angry or
honestly, Tim, it's entirely possible that did happen. But then he healed and we saw him leave. Like it's entirely possible that happened because he's Wesker and he's got superpowers and whatever else. But I do not remember for the life of me. So, yep.
All right. So yeah, if we scale back, so we got, she meets Ada Wong. They speak to Wesker, and then
Wesker's like, there's a team coming, and that's when we cut to like the snow cats or whatever they're called coming in at the top, and you've got Leon, Barry Burton, you got Luther from the last movie who's on this team somehow, and 2 red shirts, and they're going to be coming down to sort of meet you in the middle to take you out of here, and that's the whole thing. So Alice and Ada go walking through some of the areas because they have to get to a certain one. So they go through the suburbia area, and that's where they sort of find the dead clone of Alice and ultimately find the daughter who thinks this is her mum because she looks just like her mum. And she even though it's all fake, she's a clone who believes this is her mum. And, you know, like, Aliens is my favorite movie of all time, right? Clearly, Paul W.S. Anderson loves Aliens because he loves stealing from aliens. So we're doing Newt. We're doing the Newt Ripley relationship kind of in the most like thin possible hackneyed way you could possibly do it, which is we're just supposed to care about this relationship that now immediately forms between Alice and this girl, and it's like to the point where later on in the movie a licker kidnaps her and puts her into a cocoon, even though it's never been established that the lickers ever do anything like that. And I'm not even talking about the games, because it's true in the games as well, to be fair, but like in the movies they've never established that. This is only happening because the xenomorphs and aliens do that, and that was in that movie that was established. You know, sometimes they just capture people and put them in a cocoon so that a face hugger can open and, you know, plop, and they can continue their species. Why is a licker putting them in cocoons? Who knows? But all of a sudden that happens for some reason. So yep. Saving a snack for later, maybe? I don't know.
And also just the whole daughter character, like, just, I mean, you can say this about a lot of stuff in the movie, but it just like has like no point. Like it doesn't feel like there's some, you know, overarching like
of course
plot
not.
Where like it would be one thing if, you know, the movie starts off with Alice being like, you know, like I don't care for anyone. I don't, you know, like I look out for myself, and then she learns to have to care for someone. But like, no, there's nothing like that, you know.
Absolutely nothing. And to the point where, like, in the final big fight that happens once they get up top, the girl just stays in the truck the entire time and never becomes a factor in the entire final fight. Not that I was expecting her to fight, obviously, but, like, you know, maybe the villain would go after her, or maybe, like, she'd start to sink into the ice, so there'd be, like, a ticking time clock of, like, I have to win this fight so I can go save the girl, or something like that. Nope, we never even get a reaction shot from her. We don't see her again until we cut to Alice waking up on the chopper afterwards, and it's like, I guess she was just safe inside the truck that entire time. All right.
Yeah. Forgot you have a daughter now.
Yeah, you've got a daughter now. I wonder if she's going to be in the next movie. Honestly, that was my favorite bit about the ending. It was like watching our lineup of characters. So Jill's been cured at the end. You got Leon. You got Ada. You got Wesker. You got the kid. And I was like, gee, I wonder how many of these characters are actually going to be in the final chapter.
Right.
Because I don't know. But I'm suspecting that even if some of them are, it's going to be for a very brief amount of time at the start. It'd be my guess. Yeah. But, so, yeah, they find the girl. They go run into the subway. Something that really bugged me, actually, is so you see, like, the team that's come down. Like, they're, like, fighting some zombies in, like, the Moscow area and stuff. Alice runs into the Suburbia Michelle Rodriguez. Well, actually, they run into the first batch first because they're in the house and like the SWAT team version of Michelle Rodriguez and Colin Sam and also Carlos is now an evil SWAT team member because they've got another clone of him. Just go with it. And they're like, oh, come out, faces, blah, blah. And Ada stays behind to hold them off so that Alice can get away. So Alice goes into like the subway area with the girl and they bump into suburban Michelle Rodriguez, who is very nice and friendly and wants to help. And Alice teaches her how to use a gun. And I think they were trying to be funny here by having this Michelle Rodriguez say, oh, I don't like guns. I protested the NRA. I'm like,
right.
Is this humor? Are you trying to do it? Like, can we just get on with this, please? And so they do a whole thing here where it's like, hey, I'm going to leave the kid with you. I'm going to go look for... There's help coming. I'm going to go look for the help. Okay? And now, okay, that's fine. That's a goal. She's going to go and look for the team that's in the Moscow area. It pissed me off so much that the very, very next scene, these guys run into a liquor, they fire their guns at a liquor, and then, like, 10 seconds later, fancy car comes crashing into the scene. The door opens. It's Alice. She's already found them. I'm like, well, she found them pretty goddamn quick. There wasn't really much to the search, was there? Right? It was just, no, she swoops in. And honestly, the way she comes in and hits this liquor with the car, and then it focuses on the car door opening, it felt like a car advert. It felt like, hey, look at how cool this car is. In fact, one of them even has a line about, oh, that's a nice ride. And they're like, okay.
I was just going to say, I remember there's like some dumb cheesy line around this point, and that was it.
So yeah, we get an over-the-top sequence where they're driving away from a licker who's chasing them. And like I said, the lickers are even bigger than they were in the first movie now. They're like, twice the size.
I mean, I feel like even bigger than that. Like, I would say they're, not quite like kaiju size level, but they're like, pretty damn big.
Joe, I think you're misremembering, Tim, because I think you're thinking of the games. It was always bigger in the movie than it was in the games. And in the first movie, it was already a bit bigger. And then,
was it? Okay.
Admittedly, I'm not going to argue and say it's this, like maybe it's 4 or 5 times the size. But I think you're imagining a bigger gap because the one in the first movie was already bigger than the one in the game. But not that it really matters.
Okay, fair.
It's huge here, and it's chunky, and it's got like extra sort of thickness on it. So whatever.
Which I'm not necessarily against, like, if, like, I don't know, like, that I could kind of see, like, there being a fun idea with, we're, like, we have these, like, really big creatures, so you have to think of, like, different ways to, combat them and whatever, but, I mean, again, it's not thinking, that far ahead.
We glossed over an entire sequence, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
Before Alice and Ada got to Suburbia, they went through, I think, New York, and Red Queen said, release the biohazard. And I was like, oh, I wonder what creature they've we're going to see something new from Resident Evil that we've not seen in the movies before. Nope. We get the Executioner who was in the last movie. Well, we get 2 of them, in fact.
2 of them.
And I was like, oh, we're just doing them again. So when we saw the liquor later on, I thought, do you realize how many monsters and bosses you've not used from the games and we're recycling multiple creatures? There was a glimmer of hope that each biome might have its own like big boss monster or something. So, so maybe there's a hunter in this one, maybe there's I don't know, the giant spider from something in this one, or you know, whatever. Like, take your pick, right? Maybe a water area with a zombie shark. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But regardless, I've thought, oh, maybe they'll do something. No, two executioners, which is just an excuse for Alice and Ada to stand back to back and fire their guns off and do some flippy doos and explode some cars and whatnot.
Yeah, I feel like they take these out like relatively easy. Like obviously there's a fight and stuff, but yeah, like it never seemed like, you know, they're having trouble with it really. And then I don't know if I got as good of a look at these guys in the last movie or if I thought about it as much, but like their design kind of makes no sense. Like they have these hoods on and then they have like swords and spikes through like their heads in the hoods, and I'm like, why? Like, what is the point of that? Like, yeah.
I mean, I can't say for sure the game 5 doesn't have that as well. I don't remember.
But I can. It would make more sense in the game to me, like if it's like, oh, here's a creature that people might have like already attacked or whatever that has these things in it. But like in the world of the movie, I'm assuming that these are just new creatures that, you know, the Red Queen is sending after them. So it's like, why do they already have things sticking out of them?
Yeah, they've been in a cell effectively, and they've just been let out for the first time. So why do they look battle damaged already? I suppose there's a point to that. But that's the thing. It was so easy to gloss over that entire sequence because it's, you know, it's a good 5+ minute sequence. It's a bunch of needless action that has no weight to it, but it's very forgettable, like a lot of the action in this movie is. And this car chase with the liquor, you know, it ends with a bunch of car like flipping and, you know, going down like an escalator into the subway and like, you know, the rubble all coming down on top of the liquor. It's like so over the top, and then it's just kind of like, okay, well, let's move on.
And also real quick with that sequence too, like you're saying before, everyone's always like, we have to get Alice, blah blah blah. I'm kind of like, I feel like you could do okay with Ada too. I mean, she seems to be handling like these executioners like pretty equally to me. I don't know.
Yeah, but regardless, Alice is the one Wesker wants, so they're all looking for Alice. And now that they're all together, they're going to, you know, go down, you know, aside from Ada because she stayed back in the suburbs area fighting. They go down like a subway tunnel to get to like the submarine area of this underground base because that's near the elevator. So there ends up in a bit of a standoff here. Barry gets slashed by a liquor, and he like sort of stands off against like all the military like versions of Michelle Rodriguez and whatnot. Regular suburbs Michelle Rodriguez gets killed by the liquor. She gets thrown against the wall and dies. And you know, they have a shootout. Barry, for some reason, decides to like have this big final moment, and it's like the most stupid thing ever. So he pulls out his magnum, he kills a couple of red shirts and it's whatever, and then he intentionally goes out because they pull out Ada and they say, we've got a hostage, and if you stop shooting her, we'll kill her. And part of me was thinking, why would Barry care about Ada? There's no reason to establish why he would care about Ada. But he steps out because he's a good guy. He just opens his arms out, and they just shoot him, right? But then they do a thing where after he plays dead for like 5 seconds, he jumps up and catches his magnum that was still falling to the ground from when he gets shot, and he kills Colin Salmon, and then he just immediately gets shot repeatedly again and dies, and that's him gone. And I'm like, I thought when he stepped out, like I figured he was going to die. I figured he was doing like a sacrificial moment, but I thought he was like, I don't know, going to set off a bomb or something that would take out the entire squad, that would buy everyone else some time, like he would accomplish something. He accomplished nothing here. He did this cool, stupid move where he catches the gun and he just took out one of them. It feels really weird. It's not even like he had like a rivalry with that character or anything. It's the first time they ever met.
I mean, the problem is that, you know, Paul W.S. Anderson is just putting stuff in here that looks cool, but then the even bigger problem is that he's not talented enough to make it look cool.
Yes.
So we have a lot of stuff that, you know, that is pointless, but, you know, is supposed to look cool, but doesn't actually look cool. It's weird.
Yeah, every time like Jill would step out from behind her column and fire her guns, it just felt like such a student film of like, you know, like just pop out, shoot, go back, and just, you know. At one point Barry would like shout a one-liner before we went back into cover. I'm like, you're just asking to get shot. This is stupid. But yeah, this is where the liquor kidnaps the kid, and Alice does some climbing. She gets Zeta's grappling gun out and she zips up to it and shoots it in the head a bunch. Doesn't kill it quite, but gets the kid. They walk into the room where all the clones are being made, so that the kid starts questioning, wait, am I really your daughter? Are you really my mother? And it's whatever. I don't really have much to say about any of this, other than she gets back to the elevator when Leon and Luther are going up it, so they're getting out. And I checked the time at this point, because they get to the surface, right, and they've set up a bunch of explosives so that all the underground like biomes all start flooding with water. And it's like, okay, I checked the time, there was 26 minutes left on the clock, and I went, you son of a bitch, I guess we're not done, right? Which makes sense, because eventually they're driving on their snowmobile and then a submarine breaks up through the ice and Evil Jill and Michelle Rodriguez are there, and the two guys take on Michelle Rodriguez, who injects herself with a La Plagas virus, which is the virus from 4, although nothing that happens with her is remotely reminiscent of what anything in that game is. I guess the closest thing you could say she is, if you want to be very charitable, she's kind of like the chief, the village chief, who is kind of invincible. He does eventually turn into a monster, but for a lot of the early part of the game, he is just a guy who's unkillable. So maybe they're going for that, but she never turns into anything. She's just, you know, she just heals at Wolverine. Yeah. That's it. Like, you know, and for some reason they start doing like Mortal Kombat, like X-ray, like finishing moves where like she'll punch one of them and it'll like go into an X-ray and you'll see like the ribs crack, and then Luther's heart gets stopped and he dies. So Luther's not coming back for the next one. Congratulations. But yeah, so she's fighting those two guys whilst Alice is fighting Evil Jill, and this made me laugh so much because they fight for ages. And for some reason, this particular entry in the franchise seems to be really proud of its score, because it loved, like, you know, oh, we're going to do all this in slow motion with nothing but the score, and the music's blaring the entire time, and it's, you know, they seem to really care about the music in this one. And they're doing this mano-a-mano fight. Jill actually kind of starts to win. Alice ain't looking too hot. And just as she's about to die, and I want to really emphasize this fight in slow motion and goes on for like 5 minutes. It takes ages, but let's just skip to the end. Alice just decides to grab the mind control thing off her chest, and it made me laugh because it was so easy. Like, it was, because now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it should be as difficult, because in the game you have to pull at it for ages and it's like hard to get off and whatnot. But it was so funny though, because she spends like 5 minutes plus fighting this woman for her life and struggling, and then literally all it does to stop the whole thing is just go pluck. Yeah. And that's it. And she just throws it away, fires some shots at it. In slow motion, of course, we get slow motion bullet time as the bullet's coming towards it, because of course we will, because Paul W. Sanderson can't resist, and then that gets destroyed, and Jill's back to being herself. Hooray.
That part made me laugh with the slow motion. You have the bullet, you know, like whizzing through the air, coming at the scarab or whatever, and it doesn't even like hit it dead on. It just kind of like nicks one of its legs and then it falls to the ground. But like the way it's set up is like, it seems like it's gonna be this big, like epic, like, oh, it's gonna hit it and then there's gonna be an explosion or it's gonna crumble to a bunch of pieces, and then it's like all that build up and all it does is just kind of like, yeah, nick one of its legs and then it falls to the ground.
Yeah, just to explain this here, because I realize that this probably sounds insane if, like, so Jill was being mind controlled by this scarab-like device on her chest. So when Tim said scarab there, that's what he's talking about. And that makes sense to us because we know it from the game. And to be fair, I don't like that plot point in the game either. I think Resident Evil 5's plot in the video game is pretty shit and stupid. But that's why we know what this is. I just realized, though, that you're saying, oh, she shot at the scarab. I feel like I have to explain that the mind control device is the scarab, because I don't think that's a connection most people are going to make.
No, I mean, that's a great point. Like, again, since we played the game, we know what the score is. But again, if you're not familiar, or it's very possible that maybe there are people that like the first couple of Resident Evil games but never made it out up to 5. So then watching this, it's like, yeah, what the hell's going on? Especially like early on when, like, you're seeing Jill, like, that scarab like thing is so distracting. It's like, why is she wearing this? So yeah, very strange altogether.
Yeah. It's so weird for a movie franchise that is so disrespectful and disregarding of anything from the games, and yet it has little bits that make no sense if you don't know the stuff from the games.
Yeah.
it's wild. It's really weird, but yeah. And then she beats Michelle Rodriguez by just shooting the ice under her feet, so she like goes into the ice water, and there's a bunch of zombies there to pull her down. So I guess she's technically still alive, but she's just like going to forever be pulled on and munched on by zombies, but keep regenerating or something. I don't know if that's what they're going for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of weird because, like, if she does have, the Las Plagas virus in her, I don't know if, like, would the zombies be able to sense that? Would they maybe not want to go after her? And then also, like, how, like, far up are these zombies? Like, where do they come from exactly?
I think they came from the facility. I think that was the idea, is they all swam up from like the destroyed facility underwater.
But I don't know. I just imagine that it is just like miles and miles like below the surface or something, like, because she's just falling like right through the ice and the zombies are like right there, like.
Well, yeah, Alice sees one through the ice, knowing that they're there, and that's why she does what she does. Yeah. I'm not going to argue the logistics of it. It's probably bullshit from a scientific perspective. But yeah, the idea is that since they've blown up that facility, that some of them have floated to the surface.
Fair.
I'm not here to tell you that that's accurate or that's what would happen. I'm just simply telling you what the movie's presenting you.
Right, yeah. I mean, again, if I'm enjoying it, I'm probably not going to be nitpicking this stuff as much, but it was stupid to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All these fights at the end were absolute trash. Like, the fighting in these movies is always terrible. Yeah, it's rough stuff. And ultimately, it's like, okay, helicopter ride to apparently Washington because Wesker's sitting in the Oval Office and he injects Alice with a T virus and then takes her onto the roof and says, this is humanity's last stand. The Red Queen wants to destroy every human on Earth. Wide shot of liquor zombies try to get into the White House area and flying dragony looking things, as we said earlier. And I've made this complaint in the last like 3 movies, but this has become such a trend in this movie series of doing this weird big cliffhanger ending only to try and just like get rid of it as quickly as possible in the start of the next movie. This is not what the next movie is going to be about. I can promise you. Just like the end of the last movie was like, oh, the Umbrella's coming for everyone on the boat. No. They quickly killed everyone on the boat and Alice wakes up in a new location. End of Resident Evil 2 was like, hey, Alice is like got like mind control stuff in her and like Umbrella are watching her. That was not the plot of Resident Evil Extinction at all. Like it was brought up a little bit, but it wasn't the focus of it at all. And then I don't even remember what the end of 3 did, so I can't complain about how 4 started, but you get the gist. There's a lot of this like, hey, big wild cliffhanger. Oh, that's not what we actually want to make a movie about next time though, so let's just quickly retcon that as quickly as possible so we can get on with something else.
And I mean, I have no idea how they'll be able to go from here because, the way things are looking, it's like, it kind of makes it seem like, all right, you have like 4 people against millions of like crazy T-virus monsters, like, again, that include like dragons and
they've got an army though, because you see people with flamethrowers at the edge of the wall and stuff, so there is like
sure
red shirts as well.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know, it just seems like so vastly outnumbered, and I mean I know Alice can do anything, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean I don't remember a lot about the last movie. I remember one character who comes back from a previous movie, which I'll be impressed if you remember who he is, to be honest, Tim. And I remember a lot of it being on the road, maybe.
Okay.
I may be misremembering that though, but I feel like it was kind of like a road trip type thing. But we'll find out. We'll find out. Yeah, not looking forward to it. I mean, the one upside though to finally have done the 5th movie is that there's only one left, and then we're done with this dreaded set of movies. We've already done Welcome to Raccoon City. We don't have to do that. Then we can just look forward to the Zack Cregger one, which, even if it's like not a good Resident Evil movie, it will probably be a good movie on its own, and that's so much better than this trudge.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean these movies are not Resident Evil movies, and they're terrible. So yeah, even if the new one doesn't feel like Resident Evil either, I don't foresee any way that it's anywhere close to as bad as these are.
Yeah. I mean, going through these just sort of like makes me hate Paul W.S. Anderson a little bit more every single time. Like all of this is just maybe a vanity project's not quite the right phrase, but it kind of has that feeling to it where I'm like, he thinks he's so great, and it's just every part of it I hate it so much.
Yeah. No, it's awful.
Yep, it's a bad action movie. It's a bad Resident Evil adaptation. It's poor, thin characters. It looks bad. There's like nothing positive to say. There really isn't. I have no positives to offer this outside of the most basic of like, oh, like they have a sound mix. The cameras were pointed at the right direction, you know. But that's it. That's all I've got for you.
Yeah. I concur. It's true and utter garbage. If we want to put ourselves through it, maybe we can rank them once we watch all of them. But I feel like maybe I like this one a bit more than at least the last one and probably the one before that. Because I mean, it does feel at least we're doing more, I guess, traditional settings, and even like, you know, underground bunkers and stuff are, you know, feel a bit more Resident Evil than like post-apocalyptic wastelands or whatever. So it's I guess
it's a little more focused, you know, and there's a bit more variety as opposed to like what the last two movies had.
Yeah. So I'm not complimenting it like at all, but I still think it's terrible dog shit. But like, I probably like it a smidge more than, you know, the last one or two, and that's probably like the most charitable thing I can say for it.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm actually just curious now. I won't spoil anything, but I'm clicking on the next movie. I just want to see what cast members are back, and I'm like, oh, wait, what? Really? Okay, I've seen some surprising names here. Some of them don't even make sense, so I guess we'll figure out how that works next time. All right, like characters who like have already left or back. It's weird. Anyway, I tell you what, I don't see though. I don't see Ada, and I don't see Leon in this list.
Of course. Yeah.
So,
I mean, why would they come back? They, you know, were prominently, you know, displayed in the end of this one, so there's no need for them to continue.
Anyway, all right, Tim, what are you giving Resident Evil Retribution out of 10? Putting some real thought into this.
Again, like I said, I think I enjoy it more than the last few, and I forget what I gave the other ones. But I'm trying to decide like between a 1.5 or a 2. I guess maybe I can give it the 2 just to say I was a bit more invested in it than the other ones, which I forget what I gave them at the time, but I feel like they deserve like 1s or 1.5s. I mean, there really isn't much going for this. Like you said, it looks terrible. It sounds terrible. I don't care about the, new characters, and when they do try to incorporate characters from the game, it is just like so thin and cheap, and again, they're not doing any justice, like, to the characters that we actually legitimately like and would want to see represented in these movies. So it's almost worse than not having them on there at all. I just don't like this storyline, this world, and again, maybe you could forgive it a little bit if it's like, it's not Resident Evil, but it has some really good action, or the special effects are really good, or blah blah blah. But there's nothing like this here. It's like, it's not Resident Evil. Also, it looks really bad. Also, the CGI is horrible. Also, like blah blah blah. Like, and like you're saying, like, so much of the action either sucks or it's just like them shooting guns, which is not fun or anything. And just so many bad story choices, for what little story there is, and it doesn't really feel like welcoming to anyone that isn't a devoted fan of the series or anything. So I don't know, it's just so bad, this series. I mean, in a way, I'm glad we're doing it, because even bad stuff, sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm glad that I can check it off and say, well, I saw it, so I can say for certain that it sucks, but these are tough ones to get through. Like, they're not even, again, we said there's no like fun enjoyment to be had on here.
No, I'm never laughing at it. I'm just miserable.
Like,
which, by the way, you gave the last 2.5 each.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in retrospect, those should probably be like 1.5s, and then this would be a 2. But whatever. I mean, I don't know if I would rather watch that, but like, at least that Resident Evil TV show that was on Netflix, god awful, but at least there were some moments that were like so crazy that we're kind of laughing at them, like what the hell is this?
It was it was better than these movies, which is weird, because there's nothing like, a lot of it is just this drama about 2 teen girls like wondering what their father's up to. So it's very mediocre at best, and at times just kind of like, what the hell are we doing here? Why are we talking about pirate and anime like in a Resident Evil adaptation? But there's the odd moment. It's like, it at least has characters they're trying to develop. So just on an objective level, like, forgetting that it's Resident Evil for a second, it just actually has an attempt at building characters. Now, how successful they are is up for debate, but it's way more than any of these movies have ever had. These movies don't have any character development whatsoever. They are the most paper-thin characters in like any mainstream movie I might have ever seen. It's actually like Steven Seagal's main characters in his movies have more depth than any character in this movie. And that's like, what else can I say? So I'm just going with a 2 as well. I've given the last 2 a 2. This is a 2 as well. It's just a long string of 2 out of 10s. Like, Paul W.S. Anderson is an absolute like hack. I just don't have another word for it. He's god awful. He's god awful. I can't. I'm a loss for words. I have no other words to describe him at this point, or at least words that won't get us demonetized on YouTube. So I'm going to hold back. So there you go. That's Resident Evil Retribution. Next time on the show, I actually don't know, because so we're recording this kind of like in like early May. But the next like 3 weeks are like new releases, so all of those will come out before this one does. So I actually don't really know what next week's episode is going to be by the time this goes out, so I can't tell you. But this was in the bank for a little while by the time you guys get it. So hopefully all those new movies that came out were good, and we were said positive things about them.
Here's hoping,
because it might be June by the time you get this. I'm really not sure. So. But thank you for joining us, of course. Subscribe, all that stuff helps out a bunch. And of course, you can support everything over at Patreon. Yes, Tim?
And I will say too, it's almost your birthday. You could have picked a good movie to watch, like,
I could have. Yes, it is 2 days till my birthday at the time of recording, everyone. It's a sweet Tim remembered, but
I only realized because I don't know if this is like some new thing like Facebook's doing or something, but there's like some like AI thing that was like, Pete's birthday is in 3 days. Like, why not wish him an early happy birthday? Or no, I'm not gonna do like people don't wish you birthday, like happy birthday, like days before.
Yeah, that's strange. But anyway, yeah, you can support everything over at Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, and get access to the bonus stuff. We do an even more stream segment most weeks. We have bonus episodes that are exclusive. We usually do weirder or more obscure movies from the past in that slot. So, go check out those, and also get to see bonus stuff for all the other shows and Mail Fuzz movies, like the Atomic Cinema Experiment and Collector's Cut, the 2 other movie shows. But that is us. That has been Streams After Midnight, so thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.